there was definitely a couple of things could have done better in the last one, but it was a tricky one. The Planeswalker package was really a problem, and maybe something I need to adjust for, though possibly not quite as much as I did. So we'll see how this one goes. I've been some of the standard PTQ lists just went up. There's a lot of Lyra. Seems to be the main message of the day. Right, I've got this opening hand. We're going to be leading off on. Yep, this is great. All you really want, we've got a possible virtual sensor. All right, green-white. So this is probably one of the green-white mid-range decks that we're running around. We'll start off on irrigated farmland. Gets our lands in untapped, and we really want to start playing the glacial fortress and stuff. This is fine. Yep, this is 2-1. This is the thing with Branch Walker, like that 2-1 body we just really don't care about for a long time, even though it did our opponent did get their fair share of value from that. So we're not going to worry ourselves too much about that one. We'll hold up the Syncopate. If our opponent doesn't cast anything to Syncopate, I probably will just cycle this irrigated farmland. There's a point of it that although the deck is quite mana hungry, we do have the important 5 mana, so we can start casting our Teferi, start casting our Fumigates. I feel like a Fumigate's going to be an important card in this matchup. So let's see what our opponent plays here. Hopefully something we can grab with the Syncopate. Yep, perfect. Especially because the Bronzodon is one of the big problems for our deck, because our normal way to deal with things permanently is cast out, but Bronzodon means that's not quite as permanent as I'd like. I know some of these Sultai Snake decks are playing the full 4 over this deck, but I haven't quite looked up the green-white mid-range decks enough to know if it's a full 4. I believe it can be anywhere between 1 to 4 copies, to be completely honest with you. But no, getting rid of that is great. Uses our mana efficiently. Starts to get back some of the tempo being in the draw. And then I think we're going to play the Zalorfin Void here. There's an argument to play the Field of Ruin so that we can possibly destroy their Scatter Groves, get another card in the graveyard for Sedraz Ganta. I think I just want to play the Zalorfin Void, though we really want to try and find some action, like another land on top to bottom would kind of be a virtual draw. Fumigate is a great one, actually. We'll leave that there. Means that we can maybe be a little bit more carefree with our disallow. Let something through if it's just like more of a generic creature threat, such as another Bronzodon. Probably look to be saving these for I don't know if they play Karn. I'm a little bit unfamiliar with these decks. If it is a green-white mid-range deck for the moment, all he's played is just 2 good green creatures. All our opponents played. East hard stuff. This actually is one we're going to counter because we don't want to. If our plan is to clear up the board with a Fumigate, we don't want to be wasting time with a vehicle getting in the way of that. So we'll play down the Field of Ruin. There was some argument to play the tap land there. I feel like we would definitely cycle it to get it out of the way because we'll take our 2 because we just don't want the extra land. We do have the set of the wreckage up, but obviously not going to use it on just a Mofo Branchwalker. Brontodon. I don't think I'm going to counter, but I also don't think I'm going to be fumigating. So we'll use the Field of Ruin in the end step. That'll get us an untapped land so we can activate our irrigated farmland. I think we want an island here because we've got the other plains in hand. So island, we'll cycle our farmland. Our opponent can also now cycle their own cycling land, which is a minor downside, but I don't think it's enough to be worth worrying about. Okay, negate, that's interesting. So if our opponent has some sort of planeswalker threat that our fumigate can't mop up, then we get to have an answer to it. We'll just play the plains here. And back to them. Ideally, our opponent just slams the land, which they'd have to draw for the turn. Because they missed their land drop last turn. Okay, so hopefully they slam the land, attack us for 5, which we just happily take, and then replay a Lyra. Slightly awkward that we're leaving ourselves open to. We are going to have to tap out countermount spell mana to play this Fumigate, but yeah, great. I don't think they're going to be playing another one, but this is great value for us. Really helps just get us back equal on cards. Gains us a bit of a life buffer, and we've still got this Settle the Wreckage to deal with awkward things. The nice thing about Fumigate is if they do have a Blossom, this is probably a Lyra? A Walking Ballista. Okay, that's a bit more annoying, actually. That one is certainly a threat. They can just kind of leave it back and don't really have to walk into any Settle the Wreckages or potential castaways that we could have. So it's definitely put some pressure on us. If our opponent doesn't do anything, there's nothing that we can really do either. So I think they probably shouldn't attack us here because of Seal Away. Yeah, I'm not sure I like that from our opponent, but unfortunately we can't, unless they spend the mana to activate, we can't really settle here. I think we have one more turn of being having the privilege of not settling. Yeah, they're just going to spend their mana into the Ballista. Okay, well, next time we are forced to settle. But let's see what we draw. Okay, well, another settle's definitely going to make that a easier decision, an easier pill to swallow. And now with the shield to back up after a settle, we've got, yeah, it's just me activating the Ballista, sure. So we're going to be at 7, potentially 6 here. Our opponent's almost certainly going to attack because we didn't have a Seal Away last turn. Yeah, which is at least means we deal with it, because otherwise we might be in a bit of a pickle whilst we were taking that hit. Yep. Okay, well, if our opponent does want to sacrifice all the counters, we at least don't get a land, so I assume they're just going to hit us for 2, so that's a good point. We're going to be on a little bit more life than I'd counted for. I'm not sure what 6-drop they could possibly need the land for. I'm not spending a disallow on that. It may be incorrect, but if they're just going to draw a forest off it. We want to try and get our syncopate value, and we're just like spending our hard removal spells, our hard counter spells, on something that's, end of the day, not really a giant threat. Seems like not a winning proposition. We are in danger of falling behind here. We need to find a Search for Azcanta, we need to find a pull from tomorrow, we need to find a Teferi, like any of those cards. I could pull tomorrow for 5 here, that's going to be game. That's going to seal this away, draw us most of the answers we need. We will seal away this Branchwalker if it's Hash Up Oasis. As it is, if our opponent doesn't play any more creatures, I'm probably inclined to seal away in the end step. Yeah, I think I like this. Opponent may have a Blossoming Defense, but that's fine. Interestingly, the Seal Away can't hit the Shana Sisei's Legacy. Interesting little interaction that might come up if this card starts to see a little more play. So we can syncopate any threat that our opponent plays here. And Ixalan's Binding. I'm actually going to negate here because it's unlikely our opponent has that many targets for this negate, so being able to hit one here cleanly, and even though the syncopate might fall off later on, the fact that we can counter, yeah, we'll happily get that out of the way. Our opponent does not have any more man sources. If they want to exile a Simic Spirit Guide to pay, they are more than welcome to do so. Okay, so that's what our opponent hand is. They're just clogged up with removal spells. Perfect draw. Exactly what we wanted. Can't ask for more than that. Let's get Teferi into play. He can start doing his thing. Search for Azcanta, and even better, we get to, because Teferi is an unreal magic card, we get to untap our 2 lands to hold up our disallow. We hold up an island. Okay, this is great for us. So our opponent could have, yes, another Ixalan's Binding. That's the sort of card that could be left in their hand. Khan. I don't really care about Khan, but I care about it enough to disallow it, I think. Like, even just making... Okay, our opponent's going to concede there. I think that's reasonable. I think at this point we probably got the game locked down. It makes our life a lot easier if they do concede, of course. So we're bringing in these against a green-white mid-range deck. This is definitely what we want. I'm actually going to leave the negate in. I'm not certain if I want more. I definitely want the Supreme Will, I think. The cast outs do at least answer the opponents. Maybe these Seal Aways aren't as good, even though they're traditionally quite good against these creature decks. I could definitely see these being weaker because we want We don't want to trade 1-for-1 with our opponent on creatures. We want to try and be board wiping them. We want to be doing, interacting with them. Oh. This is interesting. I think I'm happy with just the sideboarding. The only thing is potentially another negate. I don't think the Knight of Graces are for this matchup. No, we need the Seal Away not hitting the C6. I'm going to shave one. I think Gideon also doesn't hit. Gideon's a little worse against the sort of threats I bring to the table. And I think I'm actually going to shave another Seal Away. There's some argument against these Settled Wreckage on the grounds they're just going to play around it. They're going to be able to play around it reasonably well. But I think I meant to leave them in. Syncopate's a little worse on the draw. It is quite difficult to try and, until you've really played enough matches to get a feel for these decks. I'm just going to do the Coward's route and shave an Opt. Yeah, it's a little cliche, but it is the air in the deck that just kind of spins your wheels. I can believe we want more negates, but I don't know the matchup quite well enough to decide that right now. I'm almost certainly leaving in all their Ixalan's Binding. I'm going to bring in one more negate, which might be incorrect for a Syncopate. Just because it's going to be so important to answer these Planeswalker threats. And also, in the later stages of the game, being able to guarantee an answer to an Ixalan's Binding on our Teferi, for example, that would really make it difficult to get the win. We could... Actually, I'm going to hedge and invoke the Divine. Oh, no, I'm not apparently. Moto has other ideas. Okay, I think I would have went for an Evoke the Divine there over the Negate, having thought about it a little bit more. The fact that it hits the vehicles and the enchantment-based removal makes it enough. This hand's really on the edge. The fact that it has the Syncopate to interact early and we've got a little bit of cycling means I think I'm happy with it, but it's definitely close. Hitting a land drop there is obviously excellent. We're still probably inclined to cycle one of these cast outs. Yeah, that's fine. Hitting the planes again. Yeah, I think we'll be looking to either Syncopate their 3-drop if that's an option, or cycle a cast out to hit on another mana. And this Shana Sisei's Legacy is a good one. Nothing we can do about that, can't quite Syncopate. We'll take our beats, and we'll do a little cycling because we do want to find an answer to this. And cast out will not get the job done. I think I'll keep this around for the moment. A tap land's unfortunate here, but we are just still... We've got land drops to make. We can quite nicely counterspell a threat this turn, play a meandering river next turn. Great word for land, meandering, which is quite chill. So the fact our opponent's attacking with the Shana here probably means they don't have another creature to back it up. In which case, I'm inclined to Supreme Will to have a look for we would like ideally a board wipe of some description. Fumigate obviously being one of the better ones. So we can either take the pull from tomorrow or the opt. The pull we're not going to get a chance to play for a long time because we'll be looking to play the Teferi at some point. I think I actually like the opt here. It's either opt or planes. Maybe planes is a little stronger because we want to... Yeah, actually I think I'm going to take this planes here. We just want to be hitting our land drops. Having that untapped mana source can really help. Okay, hitting an island makes it a little worse obviously. But it doesn't mean we can play a land here so that we have the cast out as another potential option for the turn, or even just if we want to decide we want that, we can cycle the cast out and cast a hard counter spell. So, and playing an untapped land does mean that our opponent has to respect the settle, although I would imagine they'd be quite happy just to cast it here. So opponent's hitting their land drops. we're going to get hit down to 10. Yeah, this is definitely one we're going to be dealing with. Another reason to bring in negates is that we want to answer threats like this. We just want to think about whether we want to use our syncopates or our disallow. I think our syncopate's a little worse than our disavow. So we'll tap all our mana for that. Means they can't pay for it. That one can just completely, as we saw earlier, take over the game and leave us in a not great spot. So our opponent would have to draw a creature to answer this Teferi. We get to cycle a bunch towards a board wipe. Okay, they haven't had creatures for the last 2 turns, and even if they do have one that they're trying to play around a board wipe with, I think that's fine for us. Because we get quite a few looks for that board wipe. Ixalan's Binding. That one is an issue. It's actually not an issue. We have 2 cast outs in my hand. What am I saying? Yeah, that's fine. So we get to, in fact, we get to almost play a Teferi. This is actually excellent for us. We are on our life source is a little perilous, but we've still got this counterspell up. Yeah, brilliant. So what we're going to do here is we get to end of turn, cast this out to get back our Teferi. We get to still have this counterspell up if we do have to use that. I could pull for tomorrow for 4. That could be a little better. So our options here are we can either cast out the Ixalan's Binding at end of turn to retrieve our Teferi. If this is a Carnage Tyrant, I think I want a Nissa Vital Force. That's problematic. Yeah, we have to counter this. Even just the... Although that said, they can't really... Maybe I'll just cast it out. I think the counterspell might be a little more valuable. So if I let it resolve... They can't minus it to get anything back. I feel like they should have played that pre-combat, possibly. So I think we let this resolve. We're going to cast it out. Guess we should do this on the end step, just because they have another mana from this. Okay, so we're going to cast that out. Untap and draw. So we have a seal away to deal with this. So I think what we want to do is play our land. We're going to get back onto Fairy. Yeah, then we can. No, this is okay. So we're going to be getting back this to Fairy. Sorry, I was just thinking through some of the possible lines here. We can't get rid of this Shana. This land plains is going to stop being a creature when it gets back to their turn. So the way we want to answer this is plus draw a card. We should actually seal away now, as bizarre as that is, just because we have to. If our opponent decides to actually play around this seal away, they could just attack with the Shana. They would still have 2 creatures, and we'd lose. So, because we have this counter spell, yeah, this is all a lot better. So we'll counter any creature they cast, because otherwise we're dead. And then we have to hope that they... That is one we would be countering anyway, because of the application of bringing back their Nissa. It's possible that they have a creature and we just die here, but I think this is the line with the highest upside. Yep, opponent attacks us to 1. Okay, there's an answer. That's all we can really ask for. So we're going to be... We'll draw our card. There's nothing we can minus for great effect. Okay. Alright. We have to... I'm not sure if there's any way that we could get punished for this, but the way that Magic Online at the moment is bugged is that you can only target... I don't know if they fixed it, we'll see it in a second. No, you can only target the tap lands with Teferi, so rather than untapping if our opponent, has a 4 mana like a cast out of their own, we could potentially be punished. So we've got the Settle the Wreckage. We've still got a Disallow up. Neat interaction with Teferi, making our tap lands come into play untapped. But let's see what our opponent does here. This is close, you know. We are at 1 life and our opponent's at 20, so it's definitely still, even if we have a Teferi really starting to go to town. It's actually, interestingly enough, if we get the ultimate from a Teferi, a Shana cannot be targeted by that, by the ability of the emblem. So we really just, this Fumigate, not Fumigate, this Settle the Wreckage is a good answer here. I think our opponent should definitely attack us and see what we have before deciding anything else, but I suppose they may want to play a creature in case we have some sort of way to gain life. We could invoke the Divine on our own Seal Away, for example. Invoke would have been pretty good this game in hitting this Ixalan's Binding, but Negate would have also been quite strong for they've shown us Nissa and Life Crusher's Beastry. We're still not entirely sure what the correct split is. Against a deck that's playing a creature that has +1/+1 for each creature you control, that's normally not a deck that you're particularly interested in Negate for, but I think that's a lot more for their pre-board configuration. So our opponent's thinking quite a while here. It's a complicated turn. We've had our own difficult turns. We really just want to have one turn where we can finally just slam this Pull for Tomorrow for a large amount. We aren't going to be just firing off for 2 or 3. Like, we really want to be using that to push ourselves ahead and get into a good spot. Any moment now, opponent. Not entirely sure what our opponent's thinking about when we're at 1 life. But I guess he might have just had real life happen. That does happen sometimes. Somebody comes and knocks at the door. They ask if you want to talk to them about the local cattery. And as much as you may or may not care. Can our Hypno Rivulet have any application? One neat interaction with an Hypno Rivulet against these sort of decks is sometimes they explore something to the top of the library that you just cannot deal with. So, for example, a Nissa that you don't have the counterspell ready for, a Carnage Tyrant in some spots, and just having an answer, having a unusual answer can be quite good. Alright, got our opponent's pass with back priority. Hopefully, oh, thank gracious. Yep, so we've got the answer now. Fella Teferi, the hero of Dominaria and new member of the Gatewatch, and I think he's proving his credentials in Standard at the moment. So there are a lot of cards here from our opponent that we won't actually counter. That is one we will definitely counter. But the a lot of the more general creatures we might have let through. Okay, this is brilliant. We've got our turn where our opponent has nothing. And if we can manage to have one turn... Alright, land's not the best draw there. I think we'll just play our Field of Ruin. But we're not going to be activating it. Possibly a Plains was a little stronger there, actually, thinking about it. Oh, I forgot to tap the lands to the fact that Magic Online is still bugged with this ability. But hopefully there's no... Yeah, that would have been frustrating. So what is this? We're hoping for not... Thrashing Brontodon is a real issue. So we can pull for tomorrow for X equals 3 in response to this to try and find a counterspell. Because we don't want to do it for the full amount, because they can bring back... So if they destroy our... They can either destroy the Nissa, the one that's got the Nissa underneath it, or they can destroy the one that's got the cast out. So I think... think about this for a moment. I think we have to live to settle the wreckage because if we miss, then we want to be able to still use a counter spell. Still have the settle the wreckage, sorry, so we don't just, our opponent could technically get the Nissa plus and just kill us. Although I think it's more likely they answer to the Teferi, but I don't want to leave ourselves dead. And we also, that means that we have enough mana to be able to pay for to cast any counter spell that we draw. Not quite a syncopate, unfortunately. Let's hope that we find something good here. That is quite unfortunate. Okay. That's one of the better creatures our opponent could have. So I wonder if are they going to go for the win here, or no? It looks like they're just going to answer the Teferi, which is a problem, but they could still. Depends on how they want to do this. They could still answer the cast out and get back their Nissa. I guess it's probably a slightly better way to do it. Okay, they do want to do it like that. This, I think, is way better for us. Oh, they can minus, though. If they minus, bring back their Thrashing Brontodon. Minus, bring back that. Oh, yeah. That's not good for us. Okay, well, in response to them casting that, we're going to Psycho an Irrigated Farmland and see if we can hit our negate. That's quite a few lands, but not much we can really do about that. Yeah. Not the best. Not the best. That's quite unfortunate, but it's alright, we'll play the land. We've still got quite a few live draws. And this is just a real beating for this deck to deal with. Possibly why about 6 turns ago, we did have the option of, oh, that one's a problem too. We did have the option of counter spelling the Nissa rather than putting it underneath the enchantment they could potentially get back. But I feel like we had to whiff. We drew a lot of lands in a row. Yeah, we'll be casting the Settle here to not die. We did draw a lot of land. We just needed any sort of action spell, and our Pull for Tomorrow was trying to help us fight dig to 1, but so our opponent also has the option to get back their Voice of Plenty next turn, which is another real issue. Okay, well, that one we at least have an answer for. Syncopate's a little bit too late to the party. The gate looks real good here. I think we possibly want the third one, and the Seal Aways really didn't look very exciting at all for most of that game. We did need one to answer a threat eventually. Actually, Gideon seems terrible against if they're bringing in, if they have things like Nissa to pressure him, it's really going to struggle to plus to a satisfactory route. And we have the Lyras to actually secure the game, so we don't need him as a win condition. There are some arguments for Nezahal, but I don't think it's very good. Just as a way to pressure Planeswalkers and win the game eventually. I like one Invoke the Divine. This Knight of the Grace package, I don't think it's been very exciting at all, so I think we'll just go like this. The one Seal Away is a slight hedge, but I'm not even particularly sold on that, to be honest. I mean, we're going to keep this. We have a lot of lands, but this is definitely showing one of the issues of, so if I play the Glacial Fortress first, actually, yeah, if we draw any, we have some colorless lands that we really want to play the Search for Cantor on turn 2. Okay, our opponent doesn't have a Llanowar Elf, that's good. I'm not even sure if that deck plays it. Yeah, and there we go. There's one of the lands that we can draw that if we played the Memorial... Oh, we could have played it off the Memorial to Glory 3 as well, but it doesn't help turn on our Glacial Fortress later anyway, and we would take an extra point of life. But if we draw on one of the Field of Ruins or Safford Voids, for example. Okay, our opponent's main phase cycling for some reason. F6 value. I can respect that. It's not like they're representing anything with double green anyway. I don't think we can put that in the graveyard, even though it's a bit unexciting to have a tap land. But we're hoping. How we want to? Do we want to just slam this Lyra? Ugh, that's unfortunate. Oh, yeah, that was happening in either case, but that one's a real problem. I'm not going to put Lyra, not going to put Island in the graveyard. We're going to play a Memorial of Glory here, so we can hopefully just maybe slam this turn 5 Lyra, and that could be good enough. I'd imagine our opponent's going to play something like a Thrashing Bontodon here, because they wanted to get their beastery value. We have got an Invoke the Divine in the deck. Yep, called it. We'll let our opponent resolve that trigger. They might decide they want to kill our Search Rise counter this turn. No, they would rather draw their card. I think at least they have to spend the energy, I guess. But yeah, this is just the fact that making every spell they cast draw them a card as well as the scry effect. It's really just going to add up. But they may not have an answer to this Lyra, or we just play that. I think we want to play just the Lyra here for this turn, just get down as early as possible, try and buffer our life total, start pressuring our opponent. They don't have that many ways to deal with it in their deck. And if they use an Exil's Binding, for example, then we can deal with that with this cast out. Means they also can't quite play a Planeswalker into this board. Yeah, that's fine. The Slycraft Beastry is an issue, but I think I am going to be planning to... Oh, no, this is good. Okay, well, scratch what I just said. We are going to be playing the Teferi and -3 on this Exil's Binding. Having our Lyra back in play. There's some argument to do it on the beast tree, but as I said, I think that our opponent has enough cards that we don't really want to try and fight them on that axis necessarily. So we are going to be careful, keeping careful track of what our opponent does with this Lifecrafter's beast tree trigger, because if they scry to the top, then we know how far down their Ixalan's Binding is. But with this cast out, I'm not overly worried about that. We still have an answer to that in hand, ready to go. And our opponent, without having any board presence, and they can't just tap out for a Planeswalker here, is one of the real strengths of playing this Lyra. Because all the Planeswalkers, I believe, plus up to 5. Karn might be 6, but that's not going to put them in a great spot. So we've got this Memorial to Glory, can help pressure Planeswalkers as well. We want to be hitting more lands for this pull from tomorrow. That can help us keep up with the opponent's bestiary value. We've got cast out. I don't think can hit this bestiary, but possibly we draw another, or this invoke or invoke the divine. And seal away, yeah, it's just really not looking particularly exciting for what these games are going to be about. I possibly should have cut the last one as well for another negate. That would have been quite good this game. But we'll see what our opponent does. If they just spend all their mana out to their Teferi, that's so good for us. And if they do it for our Lyra, that's also not bad. So I think our opponent's in a bit of a pickle. They chose to keep on top. Okay, so they could theoretically have access to their Exil's Binding next turn if they choose to, but that locks them into having to scry whatever card is on top to the bottom unless they draw some cards with this beastry. They are figuring out the tricky business of paying their costs. Yeah, we don't want to be cycling this cast out. One thing that is a little fringe, but we're not going to be doing it this game. Okay, another binding. So let's see what they decide to go on. I would imagine the Teferi. Okay, so we get to start attacking with our Lyra, and we can cast out that Exil's Binding if we want to. I think I like... The fact they have another Exil's Binding is a problem. Puts in the graveyard, we've got one in play. Oh, this is absolutely perfect. Which I feel like I say that a lot whenever we get to resolve a Teferi, but what we're going to do here is play our 4-mana Teferi, which is a lot better. So we'll play this. We're going to plus, and then with our up tap, oh, excellent, get a land drop as well, which is always good to hit. We probably want, I think we actually do want this negate potentially, just to help try and make sure this Lyra stays alive. But we're going to be untapping the lands with Teferi to make sure that we get that head off, and a 10-point life swing's a lot. There's a reason that Baneslayer Angel is a good Magic card, right? Okay, we're good on time. Untap our lands. We've got the double blue up, which is what we need. Possibly it's a little better to untap the Rivulet rather than the Moon Worlds of Glory. There's technically some world in which we sacrifice it to mill ourselves, or we could mill it. Well, yeah, this last going to be brilliant. And the fact I'm very happy to have kept the negate on top. Yeah, because it really just, our opponent, even with the value from their beastry, is just getting completely steamrolled from just the 1-2 punch of the excellent 5 drops. We'll... Oh, our opponent has lost connection to the game. Okay, I would imagine it's more, this might be the reason they were being quite so slow earlier, but we'll give them a while. So we'll just quickly talk through what our current plan is for the moment, and I'll see how long it takes them to come back as to what I do with this bit of clip. But so we're going to be keeping this negate on top and just getting to town with Lyra. Like having the defense of the negate means that there isn't really much any cards, and that's why I really think it was probably the correct thing to keep in over the seal away in the post-board matches. But there you go. There's some argument that we could -3 the Teferi and put the Beastery on top. I think I prefer just plussing for more. We just want to hit more cards. Having the Teferi edge closer and closer towards ultimate is a very real factor. So if we minus it, I think when our opponent's been a little bit mana screwed in any case, I think that we're okay to leave them let them keep the Beastery. It's an interesting point that our opponent's Beastery has been less effective because they have all these non-creature spells. They have this Ixalan's Binding and these the Beastery itself. But I'm not sure exactly what cards could be in our opponent's hand. It's an interesting one. Okay, I'll pause the video here and then I'll bring you back up to date. Hopefully our opponent reconnects because it's definitely, although it looks like we're in a very favourable position, it's still quite an interesting match that I want to see how it can finish up. Well, unfortunately, our opponent has disconnected from it's just part of the experience of Magic Online occasionally. I do think that we had this game pretty much in the bag, though. Having the negate on top just really solidified that it was going to be quite difficult for our opponent to answer this. They'd needed to have 2 more Ixalan's Bindings in their hand, and that's not including the fact that we can pull from tomorrow to draw a bunch of cards, and we'd be drawing more cards off Teferi. So I think we had this one in the bag. It was an interesting match. I think that the fact that we wanted to bring in the more negates was definitely a good call on our part, and Lyra is a good way to beat the game down pretty quickly if our opponent does not have an answer to it, and Teferi is great. So alright, we'll be back for one more in a bit.